hour two here. We're going to talk all NBA finally, okay? We were meant to do it like 30 minutes ago in the hour one, but we're having too much fun. All NBA. If I had to choose an all NBA first team right now, I'd go Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Donovan Mitchell, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong on Donovan Mitchell on my end. I like the other four, though.
Yeah. That's the only one I disagree with, to be honest.
Who's your other two? I mean, who's your other guard?
There's two different ways, like you said earlier when we were initially going to talk about it. Do I want to do what I think is going to happen or what I believe should happen? And I'll go real quick. I think what's going to happen is Luka's going to get it. Unfortunately, I do think that that's exactly what they're going to do. I think that Luka's going to get it because he's a darling.
Good stats, bad team.
Yeah, and the stats are there. But my substitute for him would be another player that has good stats and is on a bad team too. And the other guard, I would give it to Dame, bro. Like, I think that Dame, if you look at Dame, bro, Dame had his best year ever. Like, statistically, this was his best year ever. And you could argue, you know, Nurkic to me took a step back. He was on my fantasy basketball team. He took a step back, and he was often injured. They overpaid Anthony Simmons. I don't think he's a $100 million player in the league. But they had no choice, I guess, because they didn't want him. They didn't want to lose him. But he's not a legitimate two. Like, he's not C.J. McCollum. How C.J. McCollum kind of worked really well with them. I don't think that's going to work out that well with him. And they got Grant, right? But I don't know. That shit just kind of fell apart really quickly for them. But because they got off to a good start, kind of like Utah did. If you remember at the beginning of the year, those are like two teams that started like 5-1. Everybody's like, oh, shit. Like, and Utah was kind of in it till the end a little bit too. But I think if we're doing it based on the numbers and we're talking about who's the best at the position, I would probably put Dame there.
Oh, if we can go best at the position, I'll put LeBron on first team. But,
Well, but I'm saying statistically even. I'm just saying, like, if that's a part of it. LeBron.
Average 29.
Yeah, nah, look, LeBron's LeBron. Like I said, you already said it, MVP versus best player. They're two different things. It's the same thing. Best player on the first team player versus best player of the position. They're two totally different things. Because KD would be on the first team too, then.
True.
And they need to do away with the center thing. It just needs to be just like the All-Star, front court, back court.
New CBA is getting rid of it.
But they did it. They made it worse though. They made it no positions. I think it probably should have been forwards and guards, right?
Front court, back. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably should have been that.
What you got for your first? Who would you sub Donovan Mitchell out for?
So this might be a little crazy, but so I value the end of games a lot, especially if you're a lead ball handler. I value the end of games a lot. Donovan Mitchell gets a little Westbrooky to me at the end of games. He's got a lot of good players on his team, and he just chucks that thing. He's got a green light of green lights, and I've seen him lose a lot of games in the end. Am I crazy for even thinking for a second that De'Aaron Fox might have earned a spot?
No. Fuck no.
Yeah. That dude has been so clutch. He has been so clutch. And obviously they're good. They got the record to back it up finally. I know Sabonis is maybe 1A, 1B on that team with him, but I value when a lead ball handler knows what to do at the end of games, and he has. But I love Shai for that pick because I also watched him play, and I love his defense. I think that's the one thing we're not talking about enough is that he's actually an awesome defender too. But yeah, that's I don't know. It's a tough one.
Dame was 32, 5, and 7 this year, fellas. By the way,
you get no pushback from me on De'Aaron Fox because I've been a De'Aaron Fox fan since he bust Lonzo Ball's ass back in college. Like I was like, nah, this kid got it.
You love that shit in the tournament, huh?
Loved it.
All he needed was Malik Monk back. That's all he needed. Everything clicked.
Really, but looking at De'Aaron Fox. I'm just going to spin us out of All-NBA for a hot second. We're going to come back. Looking at De'Aaron Fox, looking at Brandon Ingram, two guys who really come to mind. We've got to stop rushing, especially our American college guys, to start them. It takes 4 or 5 years to get there. Like watching Brandon Ingram last night drop a 30 ball, hit the clutch 3 where he got fouled, should have shot a free throw. In that game last night, seeing what De'Aaron Fox, he's figured it out, because 2 years ago, you're like, oh man, I don't know about Fox. What's going on with him? Yo, give these guys time. Most of your second tier stars don't figure it out until like year 4 or 5. They don't start winning for real until year 7, 8, 9. Like that's when you win your championships. And everybody isn't LeBron or KD or get dropped into a situation like Kawhi, who was able to grow and no one knows who he is until he gets good. Or be like Jason Tatum, who had a good offensive game coming in, but dropped into a good team so he could learn and develop without pressure. And by the time the pressure became his, he was ready to step up. You know what I mean?
And just, sorry, not to cut you off, but like,
I was done.
And with those guys too, there's a big difference, right? Like with Tatum, he was the final piece of that Celtics nucleus. The other guys got drafted before him. Fox was the guy that started it off out there in Sacramento. So the rebuild was going to take time. It was already a bad team. That's why they were able to get him. We know coaching that makes a big part, which I think them getting Mike Brown clearly made. But Mike Brown won Coach of the Year today, right? So we got that award already out the way, and rightfully so. Like he absolutely 100% deserves to be Coach of the Year.
Guy had Luke Walton as a coach at one point in time.
That's what I'm saying. And so this is what I'm getting at. You know, everybody gets put into different situations, and it takes time. Shea is somebody too that, which is why yesterday this is what I told Lee in our group chat. I said that I think that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is better than John Morant, and that's just my opinion on it, right? But like, you got to look at like these guys' trajectories and what situations they get put into. Shea got drafted by the Clippers. They made the playoffs the first year that he played there. He started a good majority of the games with the Clippers. They made the playoffs, then they traded him to OKC, right? So that Paul George could go to LA. And he gets put now into this wasteland kind of in OKC, this team that's clearly rebuilding. And
no. It was not a wasteland because when Chris Paul came there.
They surprised everybody with the bubble year. Yes, they made it the bubble year, but it was still first round. But it was still a team that nobody expected. Even with, because think about it, they had Al Horford too on that team.
DS-17.
Because Schroeder, a lot of people thought should have won 6th Man of the Year, but that trio of guards basically is what willed them to like the 5 seed, and they played like the Rockets with Russ and Harden, right? But like, I just think that still, and then they haven't made the playoffs since then until potentially tomorrow.
That's 2 years. OKC is Sam Presti runs a great fucking ship.
He does.
They had 2 down years.
Hey, LeBron said it best at the All-Star break this year. Sam Presti's the best GM in basketball. And I don't know if that was a shot at Rob so that Rob could pull the trigger and make the moves that he made or what. But he is. But he is probably the best. Clearly, the way they got that team set up, probably the best in the game. But point being, Fox is a guy that did grow into his own. They put more pieces around him. Instead of him, clearly he's not the type of guard that works well with another somewhat superior guard next to him, which he had prior to the trade for Sabonis, right? Because we look at Halliburton's a good player. He's a really good player. But some guys don't work well with another alpha guard next to them. And I think that he got to show that more by giving him an all-star big in Sabonis and it being more leveled out in terms of scoring and getting a guy like Keegan Murray to be this true 3, which I feel like a lot of teams lack a guy like a Keegan Murray, because Keegan Murray is going to be a good player too, obviously in the league. But like, he doesn't have to have this dynamic duo backcourt with him in order for him to show his true success and how great of a player he is, but also, as a team player, but he can also put it on his back at any given moment, but he also doesn't have to give them 30 a night. for them to be successful.
You know what, Sean? Thanks for bringing De'Aaron Fox into the conversation earlier than usual, because as a lefty and a huge De'Aaron Fox fan, I just love it. Let's get to second team All NBA. Second team guard. Guess we go Luka. Guess. I don't care. I'm gonna not be so big on games played, but I'm gonna go Steph as my other guard.
Absolutely.
My forwards. Shit, who are my forwards? I don't even fucking remember. Who are my forwards?
Jaylen Brown considered a 2 or a 3.
I think he's played a lot of forward this year.
He's played a lot of guards.
Because Jaylen Brown should probably be in there.
Yeah,
he probably should, but got to make sure I got a spot. I got AD and LeBron on team 3.
AD has been sneakily amazing since he came back from injury.
He was great before injury too. He just got injured.
Yeah. Well, he was on a streak of like missed jumpers there for a while. His jump shot didn't come back until halfway through the season. But yeah, no, I respect that.
Let's play with this, right? Because you got your Ja Morants who you could throw out there, right? I think James Harden should be on somebody's All NBA team. You got Jokic who's going to be on the second team. Drew Holiday, Julius Randle, Sabonis. I'm looking at something right now that has Jalen Brunson and DeMar DeRozan on their third team. Throw that shit away.
So fucking packed with talent, bro, to where these lists are they're almost impossible to do, because you could make a compelling argument for anyone to be on almost any of these teams. But I think if we can all agree that these two players are definitely on the second team. Jokic will definitely be the center. And maybe it's not just a consensus, but to me, I know you have Mitchell, though, on your first. I would put Mitchell probably as my second team guard, and then Steph would be the other one. Steph's numbers are crazy, too, this year. And he played in 56 games, but – like, Steph is like the reason for the season. Like, Golden State's not a playoff team without him. And that was apparent, like, when he went down. Like, they were just losing games. Like,
I'm barely counting games at this point, not because I don't care. It's because, I mean, you heard what Draymond said. Yeah, we're going to be putting bums on All NBA. But when you just see what it is and who's played so well, I just can't. How do you ignore some of these guys? I mean,
there's going to be a lot of "I'm disrespected" tweets going out. That's my favorite. Of like, oh, the disrespect. Guys, I'm sorry. It's such a tough pick.
Like Josh should ideally be second team All NBA, but he flashed a gun and went away for 5 or 6 games. So he's now not All NBA. Does that really make sense?
But look at all
team's good.
Look at all the
second seed.
And look at all the guard play, though, man. Like you don't have Luka on your first team, so Luka now he's got to be on the second, right? Like,
I mean, honestly,
you don't have Dame. You didn't have Dame on your first team. I mean, Dame and Luka are the second and third scorer. I know it's not just about scoring, but it's just like, God damn it, we're gonna really leave off 2 32-point scores, like for real.
I mean, what if I said good stats, bad team? You remember when Brad Beal was averaging damn near 30 a game and he wasn't getting shit? We were like, oh no, we can't put him on the team. Why? Because of the media narrative around him. They go,
OKC won one more game than Dallas.
Huh?
OKC won one more game than Dallas this year.
Expectations.
That's true too, but I guess I look at it.
But like even some of Shea is media narrative, right?
Well, and Shea's a better defender. I know it's split.
He's a better defender.
Shea plays defense. If you try on defense, you're a better defender than Luka. Why can't James Harden and Kyrie make All NBA this year? I know they won't, but why can't they?
I mean, people don't like him, right? That's. Whether it's for one reason or another, whether it's for the foul stuff with James, like, getting off of the teams, Kyrie, pick something. I don't know. It just, it's writers that vote for these awards,
Plus, guys like LeBron are the ones that no matter what, they're going to get their respect in like spots. I think that because you want to showcase the younger guys that are really putting in that work too, right? Like we can't just keep giving it to the same guys every year. Like those guys have made several All-NBA teams prior to this. Harden's in year 14, 13.
14.
Yeah. So he's been in the league for so long. Kyrie's in year 12 or something like that. Like these guys have been making these teams. This is why guys like De'Aaron Fox can't make an All-NBA team, because every year these guys are putting up the same numbers that they always do, and we can't give a De'Aaron Fox his credit unless his team does what they do this year. So I feel like that's kind of a part of the narrative of it too, in a weird way, why guys like that can't get in, because there's so much young talent that's doing these great things, like a Shea. Like we all agreed that Shea was first team this year. Like we all agreed. Like John Morant is not making it an All-NBA team. Fuck the gun. Even if the gun wasn't there, they are the number 2 seed in the West, and he just still realistically was not a top 6 guard in the league.
No. If the gun doesn't come out, Ja's making second team.
Because then he plays more too. I think we have more. I think it also hurt that it happened the second half of the season. Like I don't have fresh memories of Ja. Like I haven't seen him play in a while. I think that probably doesn't help either.
Exactly. But I want to play around with this media narrative thing a little bit, because you talked about how the Shea Gilgerouses and the De'Aaron Fox of the world would struggle to get on these All-NBA teams because of the OGs that have been there, or the Lucas who are just loved by the media because of something. I don't know what it is.
And like I said, LeBron is like one of those only players that will always get there.
LeBron don't count. LeBron don't like.
I think Luke is losing it. I think this season might be a turn for that.
I hope.
Yeah.
Because Trae Young.
But here's the thing: if we're gonna credit the OGs for having similar stats, but they usually have the better win-loss than the young guys, then we should knock the OGs when they don't have the win-loss to come with the stats. Luka has OG status already. I'm sorry, Luka is OG is in the league now. No one's talked about Brandon Ingram for All NBA. Look at his numbers. He should have been an All-Star. Like I don't think he's got. And again, back to Trae Young.
He hurt a lot this year too, though. I mean, I remember that extended stretch, up until like he got hurt too. The thing about number 1 seed at New Year's Day, they were the number 1 seed in the West.
Yeah, Zion got hurt. But Trae Young, 26-10, 57% true shooting. Since when does a guy who's 26-10 and makes the playoffs not even be in an All NBA conversation? That doesn't happen.
All-Star team.
Well, yeah, he wasn't an All-Star either.
Yeah.
Because what is it? There's like a record high of people that have scored over 20 points this season in the NBA. It's because a lot of people have numbers like that. That's the weirdest thing. Like James Harden's 22 and 10 and 6. Like those are crazy. And I don't think he's even going to sniff third team All NBA. And he has the top 3 team in the East.
Well, hell, because he wasn't even a reserve for the All-Star, was he? He didn't even make the All-Star team himself. And so,
bro, and he didn't get the injury people, like when people got injured, he didn't get like the first, the second, or the third sub.
They're pissed at him because he left 2 teams, and then
the fat suit. They're pissed at him because of the fat suit,
and because he took less money, and they think there's some shady shit going on with him taking less money. So
If anything, Kyrie deserves probably more of a benefit of the doubt than anyone for one of those spots as an OG, because Kyrie, prior to him getting traded, was on a playoff team. That is still a playoff team because of what they did. So,
and they got worse when he left.
His numbers didn't change when he went to Dallas. Hell, without Luka, that record that they had, that losing record, he was responsible for a lot of those wins prior to Luka even coming back to playing with them. So, to me, his narrative, of course, is going to be, because of his anti-Semitic, I guess, post, right? That's going to be the reason why he's not. Let's not call it. Let's not call it an anti-Semitic post. A movie that he posted with anti-Semitic information in it. Okay. Well, I'm not speaking from how I feel about it, but what the world looked at it as. Him posting an anti-Semitic post. Right. I mean, look here. I watch South Park, man. I am Family Guy, I'm sure. Yeah, love it. Yeah, and they're racist.
Think of the Lord.
Sorry. I thought you were going to play the Cartman clip.
Oh. Screw you guys, am going home. I'm a cop, and you will respect my authority.
He loves using that for Urban Meyer, of all people. But, Urban Meyer. No, but
Come on, baby, right here.
Ron just said, there's so many guys with those similar type of stats to where you do have to ask yourself, is he having this ridiculous season, or are we going to really just use whether or not his team was a playoff team type to measure whether or not they deserve that spot? Like De'Aaron Fox, because the Kings have been so irrelevant and they're the 3rd seed and they were exciting, they got the coach of the year, they have to give it, who's the best player on the team? De'Aaron Fox. I mean, Sabonis was really good too, obviously, but certainly this is a guard-driven league more than anything. So he's going to get that nod. And plus, he's been there longer. They're going to shine a light on him to get one of the spots because he's on the 3rd best team. And he wasn't hurt. He played probably 77 games or something this year.
It is 70 years in prison for a Lubbock.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to get some Instagram posts, but I didn't know my volume was up on Instagram. That's all. De'Aaron Fox played in 73 games.
Yeah, so he played a good majority of the season. I highly doubt any of that stuff was like rust. I mean, even a guy like Anthony Edwards, he probably won't get the looks that he even deserves. And I'm not saying he's a second team guy. I know we're talking second team, but you know,
8 seed, average 5, 5, and 4.
He carried the load for that team. Let's see. Yeah, he carried the load for that team to where they're even in the position that they're in, and could have very well, of course, you know, they win a game or two at the end of the year when it's just him. They could easily be like the 5 seed themselves. So it's just, and even a guy like Kawhi Leonard, when Kawhi came back, bro, Kawhi's been lights out without Paul George. Like, he's been carrying them too. Kawhi Leonard's not going to get consideration at all for an All-NBA spot this year.
Well, to circle back to, I think literally was the first point of the podcast. It's the number should be the second thing. It should be like, I watched it and now I'm going, because like Julius Randle averaged 25, 10, and 4. And like, there's absolutely no way he should make one of the 3 teams. Because if anyone on that team deserves it, it's Brunson. Because if you watch the game, that's the guy who's the reason they're winning. So I think it's like 25-point scores just aren't what they used to be, man. I don't want to sound like a get off my lawn, but it's
20.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to could go out with $50 and have a good night. 50's around. Maybe.
I'm bringing mini bottles in my shoes.
And then what you like to drink.
Hey, Sean, you was the king of that. Bring the flask, order a Coke.
Yeah, bro, I'm still doing it. You gotta scrape the barrel, man.
Either that or you gotta do what I like to do. I go where everybody knows my name, because from there I'm not paying for anything. Now I'm just giving the bartender the money and, hey, this $100. Make sure we straight tonight. And then they're like, got you.
Those were the days. But hey, man, look, we're done with All NBA because we're not gonna pick 3 teams, and that's fine. Are there any awards that y'all actually care about?
The biggest debated one, in my opinion, is 6-man this year. I think that is the most interesting one.
Think it's interesting?
Yeah, because you could give it to so many people. I know the 3 front runners are probably Malcolm Brogdon, Emmanuel Quickley, and Bobby Portis, more than likely. And I guess to a degree, I don't know how many games Maxey's came off the bench if he qualifies. I know you have to do X amount off the bench, but either way, those 3, that's going to be the most tightly contested race. Maybe Defensive Player of the Year too, but like,
but hold on, but 6-man's going to be tightly contested amongst people that the casual fans could give a flying fuck about.
Yeah, well, because if they're coming off the bench, if you don't watch some league pass or like I have, like, me, and this is one of the glories of fantasy, which is why they promote fantasy so much. Aside from getting more eyes on the game from people that don't watch as much, you're going to actually pay attention a little bit more to who's doing what. And that award is typically given more so to, when you look at it, 2 teams that have either a guy that came off the bench that was just exceptional, or on the best team, the best bench player on like the best team.
Or the Will.
Of course, has a chance. But in reality, Emmanuel Quickley was a huge part, honestly, of why the Knicks have been pretty good too. Like I would say
the argument against Quickley is his best. If you break down his starts versus his bench games, his numbers come from his starts. He was a really good starter. Versus him coming off the bench. DPOI, I feel like off the top of the dome, you say Jaren Jackson Jr., but he fouls out way too much. And he has bad fouls. Him and Cat are some of the worst fouling NBA players I've ever watched. And
Cat's the worst. I think Cat's because you don't even think Cat's waiting for the ball. But continue.
Like Cat will have 2 fouls in the first quarter, and Finch would be like, I'm good, and then he'll get ripped, and then try to do the reach behind after he got ripped. It's like, bro, you know they're gonna call that, right? Like Cat has dumb fouls. Jaren Jackson has dumb fouls, but Jaren Jackson actually plays good defense. Statistically, Brook Lopez looks great on defense, but it's Brook Lopez and Giannis.
It's easier to play good defense with those guys,
especially when Drew's playing guard. So Sean, who's your DPOY?
It's tough. This is probably the toughest one. And not that it's maybe less tough than the 6-man, but I think it matters just a hair more. I have to go with Jaren Jackson. I know he fouls out a lot. I just love his game. I love the verticality. Again, the fouls are definitely an issue, but like watching my team play them, it was annoying how good the rim protection was. Like it's fun when you get to play Cat, who like when you do a Euro step, he jumps on the first step. So you just take one more and you're by him. Like Jaren Jackson, it was like, all right, maybe we shouldn't go in the paint anymore. Like him and Lopez are similar, but like playing Jaren Jackson, it was annoying. It was like, all right, stop going at that guy. And when someone sticks off the screen to me, I have to pick him. But he's been more durable. I know that like he may not play as many minutes because of the fouls, but like at least he stayed on the court a little longer this year. I know a lot of people want to say Bam. I feel like he's like the equivalent of what Embiid has been to the MVP the last couple of years as Defensive Player of the Year. I feel like every year they're like, well, you don't even see what Bam's doing. I feel like he should at least get maybe second. But when it comes down to it, playing defense is really easy when Antetokounmpo and Drew are in your team. So I think that for that reason alone, it should go to Jaren Jackson. Because as much as your boy, your least favorite player, who's the shooting guard from Memphis?
Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks. As much as he touts himself as a good defender, I don't think he actually is that good of a defender.
Well, I'm going to assume he's going to be the one guarding LeBron this series. So I'm excited to watch it.
Nice. That'll be fun.
I'm looking at some leaked ballots. Draymond Green. A lot of Evan Mobley action.
Mobley's good.
Who you got for DPOY parlay, Pete? I want to close out awards shortly and get to some NBA T before we talk playoffs.
I kind of look at it this way. I know it's not fair maybe to take it from the best defensive team. I know that Memphis is considered one of the best defensive teams in the league. The Bucks have the best record in the league. They've got what some may think is going to be 3 players on that first team, which if that is the case, that would mean that Brook Lopez is the Defensive Player of the Year. And he was another guy that was, like I said, I don't want to just continue to look at it analytically. I mean, I've watched enough of their games. They play on TV enough. And, obviously I bet on this stuff. So I kind of get to see it too, like just watching the games. Like I'll watch just because everything matters when you're betting on it. Like every possession, like you really do pay attention a little bit more. I like Brook Lopez, man. I thought that he was exceptional this year. I know Jaren Jackson, I think, led the league in blocks. So they're both rim protectors. And Jaren Jackson's a little bit more versatile because I feel like he will guard somebody. And Brook Lopez steps out there too. Shit, because offensively he steps out there. So, like, it's going to be a tough one, but it's definitely out of those two. But I would lean towards Brook just because that's the better team. And, I think that they were the better defensive team in general. He's the anchor.
All right, fair enough. We're going to take a break from some of this, and we're going to talk some fun NBA stuff. Zion recently. Physically, I'm fine now. It's just a matter when I feel like Zion. I understand the magnitude of these games coming up. I don't want to be out there hesitating or doing something that may affect my team in a bad way. When I read this, I think about 2 Philly first overall picks. I think about Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons, where when that injury happens, that you lose confidence in yourself and what you've done the majority of your life, and now you're second guessing walking and chewing gum. And I've heard like the cover up for Zion. He was saying this, he was saying that. Oh, you can't go out there and say that. No, all I heard was Zion has the yips. And it's really unfortunate, but I think Zion has the yips because he's probably never truly been hurt before. And with that muscle injury being something so normal, like, hold on, my hamstring hurts a little bit. Oh, this shit still hurts. Oh no, this still hurts. I can't. It's not working anymore. I just think he has the Markelle Fultz and the Ben Simmons, and we can ha about his body weight, but you tie it to some stuff that Giannis said about thinking about walking away in like 2020. These guys listen to outside noise too much. Adam Silver's talked about it, how the social media influence affects the league, but now we're seeing more and more star players talk about this, and we're seeing how it's affecting the product on the court. Where does that leave you, starting with Sean? Because you are Mr. Yips, Philly.
Yeah, that was not fun to watch, especially now that Markelle Fultz is a good NBA player. I'd more say it more resembles James Harden for the last 2 years than Markelle Fultz, or God forbid I even mention the other player's name. Because a hamstring is one of those things that it's a workload injury. It's a stress injury. It's something that if you work out, you can continue to aggravate it, and that rest is the only thing that's going to make it better. Does that mean that it's an excuse for Zion to just sit on his ass and eat beignets and not keep himself in shape? No, that there's so many different ways you can keep yourself in shape, whether it's diet or, Peloton, where you don't actually have to run anywhere or do an actual basketball workout. But this is more of just I think it's like the Charles Barkley lesson, where like it's going to take this guy a couple of years to realize that like what an NBA diet looks like. How do you take care of your body in the NBA? I didn't see the yips. I just thought it was like when you rest for your hamstring, Zion's one of those guys who gets out of shape fast. And like, you don't want to be sucking wind in the playoffs after people have been waiting to see you and all year and you haven't played. So I think it's one of these guys who this is going to keep happening until he loses like 25 pounds, unfortunately.
I agree. I think that I would say that it's definitely more on that end, that it's just one of these things where he's got to make this change in order for that to change in his career. It's still early. He's still got plenty of time. And even better, one of the better things that at least he can, on the positive side, how he can look at it, he got paid already. So, like, now you don't have to worry about, like, fuck, like, I need to make money. And who knows? Maybe that could be a bad thing. I think it's a good thing because he has already gotten paid. But it's like, bro, when you're on the court, you're a force. Like, you were an all-star starter this year. And I know the all-star game is the all-star game, but, like, you were an all-star starter this year. Like, your numbers were amazing. You were a starter last season when you played the most games that you had played so far in your NBA career. He played, like, what, 60? He played a lot of games that 1 year. And now he wasn't a starter. I think he was, like, the runner. Like, you know, he replaced somebody, but he still ended up starting in that game. And, like, bro, this is a dude that's averaging, like, 26, like, 8 and 5. Like he can be a tank. Like, he can be this dude.
Oh, yeah, he is a tank now.
Yeah, and certainly if he can become develops any type of a jump shot, like, bro, you can really do work. Like, and so I think that it is going to be one of those things where he's got to dedicate himself to being in the best shape that he can be and taking it, and maybe because that force is something that's been a part of his game. I'm sure that he's been bullying kids like for forever. Like there's that one clip of him in high school with the kid that's guarding him. He's like pointing at him in high school. Like he's been able to kind of do that for forever. But it's just like, no, man, you can still do that. Like you're lean as fuck, but you need to drop some pounds. Like you shouldn't be 6'6" playing the 4. Like you should not be naturally this dude that because of your athletic ability, because of how high you can jump and how big you are, like you're looked at realistically as a post player. Like, no.
Gilbert Arenas said when he was in college, he should have played the 2. He's like, nobody could guard him. He's athletic enough to play the 2. He should play the 2.
Yeah, well,
and if he lost weight, he'd still be husky. It wouldn't like he would just lose his physicality.
But he could be more mellowish, Like,
hey, that butt don't go nowhere.
Like, you said what?
That butt don't go nowhere. You know the women who when they skinny, they slim thick, and when they big as hell, they still got ass. That ass and hips don't go nowhere when your weight fluctuate.
See, do you hate him or like him? Because now I don't know what direction we go in with you. You got Grant Williams and you got Kyle Lowry. Those are some big asses. Then when we talk about Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama, you're doing this. So what are your thoughts on him, Lee?
If I'm David Griffin, he's not on the block. But my assistant GM is having conversations with his friends who work for other organizations over drinks and saying, well, what would you offer him?
Hypothetically, if he was available, what would you give us?
I mean,
I told you this. We've talked about this, that in a perfect world, in a weird way, if I'm the Atlanta Hawks, depending on what happens in the Celtics series, let's say that, like, a lot of people think they're going to get swept. I don't think the Hawks are going to get swept. Not if they play the way they did against Miami the other night. I think it can go 6. But and maybe that's the
Atlanta. If you're saying Jaylen Brown for Zion, if I'm David Griffin, I'm calling it in right now. Run it. If
the Hawks say, hey, we'll give you Hunter, Collins, whatever remaining first picks that we do have outside of the DeJounte Murray trade.
Hey, bring that big ass to Magic City.
And bring him here, and you put him with, DeJounte and Trey.
Yeah, bring that big ass to Magic City.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to give up Trey to get him. I think Trey would have to be in the deal, right?
I'm okay with that.
Well, then we're not putting – if Trey's in the deal –
you're getting Trey and draft picks.
Swapping. Yeah, I'm just like swapping. Yeah, I'm not even – yeah.
You might even get draft picks because Trey's healthy.
Right. And Trey actually – if there's one thing that Trey Young does very well, he plays in a lot of fucking games. He typically don't sit out games. So – and – he's still a draw too. I would say that even if he's not one of the 10 best players in the league, he's certainly one of the 10 most popular.
Hey, can I send some? Let me give y'all something else here. So I talked a little bit about Giannis's comments about walking away in 2020 and speaking to where Zion is, and both of you think Zion's more physical than mental, but Giannis talked about this. In 2020, I was ready to walk away from the game. I had that conversation, yes, with the front office. Everybody, no matter where I am, everybody's watching me. I don't think I have the time to turn it off, be myself, kind of just be me. As much as people say I'm handling it well, because that's my personality, it's hard. It's not easy. I gave it a chance. I started talking with someone. Somebody helped put me in a place again to appreciate all of the things that I have that comes with being who I am, to be okay with myself. I feel like a lot of people deal with it, but they're not willing to talk about it. They're not willing to improve because the stigma behind it. I talked to Kevin Love and told him how he inspired me to open up and help me to kind of better myself, where he was literally tearing up when I was telling him that. He never imagined he would be the one to kind of help me figure out a way to cope with all of this. All right, I got a few comments for this, and then I'm gonna let you two respond. I think that in our I want what I want, how I want, when I want society, we're going to continue to create people who operate this way. Hey, I want to play basketball in the NBA, make a shitload of money doing it, get my own shoe, be beloved, but at the same time, I want to feel like a regular person. Well, part of feeling like a regular person is not signing $250 million contracts. You know, we don't even sign $250,000 contracts. Most of us, so you get compensated for what you lose in your mental health. Just like jobs that are super risky, you go work on an oil rig in Texas, you get compensated handsomely for that. So when you come and you say, "Hey, you're the Little Mermaid and you want to be part of that world," here's what you do: give some of that money back. Oh, you know what, dog? You're 6'11". You're 7 feet tall. You're gonna stick out in every room that you come into, and you're a top 1-2% athlete walking the face of this earth. Professional sports is what your body is geared for. So if you want to get the most out of your life, this is probably the direction that you have to go. And guess what? It works out that you get paid a shitload of money for doing it, and you're damn good at it. Now, I'm saying all of this to say, not to dismiss anything that Giannis is going through. And I'm great that Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan put out what they're going through to the world. So other NBA players, macho men, alpha males could reach out to those guys or just reach out to whoever they needed to get the help that they need. And we see it with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has a very small group. He couldn't do much because he's so famous. But what I ask for those people in these situations, especially the basketball players, because they stick out, is what's your alternative? There is a yin that comes with every yang. There's a good that comes with every bad. Yes, you can go work minimum wage at name that place, and guess what? Instead of a shoe being named after you, you're only getting one pair of shoes per year. You know what I mean? Like you're stocking that shoe that could be your shoe. No, you're stocking it, not it being sent to you. So what's important to you? And I know I come off as insensitive, but I really get tired of rich people, especially rich people who came from nothing, who have afforded themselves, their families, generational wealth, opportunities beyond the eyes can see. First name relationship with billionaires, will eventually be a billionaire, and the doors that opens, and you want to talk to me about, hey man, I don't know if I'm cut for this. Well, fucking walk away. Fucking walk away. I know Diddy said more money, more problems, and I believe that. And I believe that we all should probably have a good therapist on standby because we got problems that we don't know how to deal with and cope with. But when you come to me with your white collar problems, when you come to me with your first world problems, but then you want to be an advocate for police violence in Milwaukee, you want to say, hey, I'm here to stand to help poor people out. Well, part of helping poor people out is not bitching about the spoils of being rich and famous. Sometimes these rich people just need to shut the fuck up and say, guess what? Part of being the best player in the NBA is people talk shit about me all the time. But I go home with a fat wad of money that these motherfuckers would never, ever think about seeing in their life. I pay more in taxes than you will accumulate in debt in your entire being. You remember LeBron in 2011 when he was pretty much like, hey, man, y'all going to go back to y'all shitty ass life and I'm still going to be LeBron James? More people need to take that mentality. So kudos to LeBron, kudos to Kobe, kudos to MJ, kudos to these famous people who are larger than life, who have found a way to find normalcy within their life. Hey, Giannis, maybe you pull up to AAU. Maybe you need to have, when your kids get older, pull up to AAU tournaments like LeBron did, like D-Wade does. Go around normal people and just say, fuck it. They're going to get on my nerves. They're going to be in my space, but I'm going to do this to make myself more available so I don't feel so isolated. I mean, he got his brothers on his team because them niggas would not be anybody's roster if he wasn't so far. But yo, just stop throwing it in our faces that you going through it. Because even though you're going through it and you deserve to get the help, you deserve to get help, you have problems that I'll never understand. You're winning at life, bro. We don't care. We don't care.
I've got 3 different quotes for it. And I'll start with the first. With great power comes great responsibility, right? That's a Spider-Man quote. To whom much is given, much is tested. Kanye West quote. To whom much is given, much is required. Quote from the Bible. This to me is just a part of what it is that comes with the territory of it. And considering that this was news that comes out in 2023, but he talks about something that was 3 years ago, I also can look at this from a different angle, just in a sense of, okay, we've got, at the time, even in 2020, you had COVID hitting. So that could have maybe even had, I don't know, especially because they had to go into the bubble and stuff. Paul George had talked about it when that happened, like, nah, this isn't it. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it, considering he's talking about this 3 years later. And we all know what 2020 was. So it's like, did that have anything to influence it? And even more so now, it's easier to come out and talk about today because you're either past it or you've worked so much on it to where it's not as big a deal to you anymore. And then if you look at him professionally, he was on top of the world because he had won his second MVP, right? He had won back-to-back. Am I right? He won 19 and 20, but he also got bounced out of the playoffs by the Miami Heat 2 straight years. And so naturally there were more talking heads about, oh, I don't think this guy can win the big one. And then he falls into that aspect of it. You're this great young player that just can't seem to get past this hump in your career at that point. But then the very next year, you win the NBA title, right? Finals MVP. Winning is fun. Winning is fun. Losing is never fun. And I think that could have been maybe parts of it. It could have just been a perfect storm of, like I said, 2020 being the COVID year, you losing back-to-back to the same team and kind of getting embarrassed in both series. You guys winning all these games, and it seemed like everything's set up. I think that just a lot of that could have came with it. But like I said, with those first 3 quotes, because Lee, I'm not sure if you'd even got to hear them, but basically, with great power comes great responsibility. That's a Spider-Man quote. To whom much is given, much is tested. That's a Kanye West quote. To whom much is given, much is required is a Bible quote. So it's like, I think that these are things that probably came into play for him. But certainly I just look at that considering it's 3 years later and him coming back out and being able to talk about it today as opposed to then. But the bubble, I just feel like there's a lot of different things that kind of maybe could have came into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things to hit on. First, and get arrested, until he gets the message, just to finish that bar off. And then I think first off, you're right. Giannis was at a point in his career that I think Jokic and Embiid are at right now, where it's like you got hardware, you got all-star chips, you got a shoe, you're famous, you got a lot of stats. But now where are the rings? Because we don't respect you until you reach that final level. And I think he was at that point where it's like MVP's cool, 30-7, cool. You're famous, awesome, but you haven't done anything that's made you worth anything in this game. And I think that's probably the most frustrating point of a career that you can be at as an NBA player, because it's like you're amazing, but you're not. There's a next level after amazing. And I think he was at that point. And I think we'll probably see that with those other 2 guys this year. It's a really frustrating thing because it's like you're amazing, like you're so good at your skill, like you're so good at basketball, but like certain things haven't dropped your way. And I'm sure maybe from the front office to Bud's lack of adjustments in the playoffs to teammates, things that are out of your control make it even more frustrating. So I think that's one thing. I think too, getting to what Adam, what you were saying before you dropped off. I think in like before I was alive, before I was a sports fan, whether you go 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, we looked at athletes as we do on like 2K. Like you're entertainment. You're not a person. Like get back in the fucking game. Like you're not hurt. Like you pansy, get back in there. And I think now the pendulum has swung too far in the other direction, where now athletes are are definitely like it's good that you have a voice, but right, like we don't want to hear your issues when you make $40 million a year. It's kind of like you have to play both sides because at on one hand, Twitter must suck to go on as an athlete. Everyone's like a couch GM. Everyone thinks they know what they should do. You miss 2 free throws, you're going to hear about it online. Opposing fans screaming terrible things at you. The pressure being on TV every night, whether it's performing or just having a fresh leg walking to the game. There's pressure on everything you do. Not being able to walk the streets normally, that all stinks. But then at the same time, you have all the money and the resources to kind of compensate for that. So like it basically, like you said, is trading your mental health for a fortune and generational wealth. So I think as fans, we also have to do a good job of balancing that as like, listen, like these are people, these are absolutely people, but like, don't whine. Please don't whine. It's very like, it's not easy to listen to rich people whine. What is I do all my crying in a Bugatti or something like that. Like that's fine, but just, we don't want to hear about it. So I think it's an important balance that you have to have as an athlete. And I think it's an important lens we have to look at it as a fan. Because like, obviously you're going to have mental health issues and you can talk about it and be open about it. But when it crosses that line to complaining is when it turns everybody off.
Yeah. And I think, Sean, these are some of our best conversations that you and I have privately, is because you got that Philly fan in you, and we'll talk about, when players get fans tossed and stuff like that. And I agree with you. Like, I don't think players should get fans tossed for much.
No.
There's a difference between me saying, hey, Kyrie, you effing suck, and me saying, hey, Kyrie, F you effing N-word, right?
Sure.
Both are meant to disrespect you and piss you off during a game. One, all right, dog, got it. I suck. No one believes that. I average 27 a game. You just don't like me. Second one is, dog, I really beat your ass over this. You know what? If you said this in any environment, it's not acceptable. You got to go, right? So I think that line between kick out disrespect and hey, I'm in your head disrespect is now getting great. Like Brad Bill confronting a fan who's like, fuck you, I lost my parlay because of you. If I'm Brad Bill, I say, hey, bro, fuck your parlay. I still got paid. You know what I mean? And kept it moving because Bradley Bill has stole money from the NBA. Stole money. But You know what? It was given to him, so I can't be mad at him. But real quick before we close this hour out, Paul Pierce is on his media run, finally, for the first time from being let go by ESPN and ABC. And Paul Pierce is so delusional. He thought he got let go because of the weed and strippers when he went on IG Live as like a 45-year-old, which is corny as hell. He got let go because he sucked at TV. Said he was a better shooter than Klay Thompson, said he was a better basketball player than Dwayne Wade. And it's like, no, you weren't. No one believes that. Your mom doesn't believe that shit. She watched you your whole life. She called you after the show and said, Paul, you want to keep that job, don't you? He was like, nah, I'm trying to get fired. I'm tired of showing up every day. But then he goes on live with the blunts and the strippers. And I remember it going in our group text, like, oh, this guy's cooked. What is he doing? This is stupid. And then turns around, he gets fired. He goes on I Am Athlete and talks about it. I listened to the clip. I did not watch the whole podcast because I don't consume I Am Athlete because Brandon Marshall is probably the worst athlete turned media personality that I've ever encountered. Like, his voice is terrible. He kills great conversation. He tried network TV and he wasn't good at that. Like, he leaked, he knew that Russell Wilson wanted out, and he said it like in passing. He didn't go to like the team and say, hey, I got it on good knowledge that Russ wants out of Seattle. You know, I played there for a year. I got good relationships there. Like, yeah, he wants out. Let's do a segment on it. He just says it like in passing. And Nick is like, what? This is a segment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Brandon Marshall, terrible at media. But anyways, Paul Pierce was like, I don't know why I got fired, man. I just had some smoke and some entertainment. Yeah, dog. If you don't get it, I don't get it. Parlay Pete, give me your thoughts on Paul Pierce, the analyst, with his short twist and his dirty look and his millions. And then we're going to let Sean close it out because Sean has a Paul Pierce story for us.
I knew it was crazy when he was wearing, I think it was during the NBA Finals last year, and he was wearing like a sweatshirt and like a Letterman jacket. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, I remember that Celtics Letterman he had on.
But basically, everybody starts looking up the temperature in Boston, and you're like, man, it's like 83 degrees. It's fucking June. And he's wearing that, and then it's just like, oh, okay. No, he's a little fucked up. That's okay, though. Like, all of us may have a little fucked up in us. I don't know if I'd be wearing 2-3 layers of clothing to the NBA Finals just because I played there and I like my jacket that much. But no, I think that a guy like Paul Pierce, I grew up a fan personally. Obviously, with his last name being Pierce, I used to wear the number 34, my name being Pierce. It had its correlation there a little bit. But I just did like his game. Even as a Lakers fan, I liked Paul Pierce. I thought him and Ray Allen and Kobe, those were my 3 guys that I just loved watching growing up. And Gilbert Arenas, too. I love Gilbert Arenas' story so much. His Zero commercial was like one of my favorites. Like, it was that was an inspiration to me. But nonetheless, Paul Pierce. Look, if I worked for arguably, will we say that Disney is one of the biggest, certainly it's the biggest media company in the world? Can we agree with that? Or if it's not the biggest, it is one of the 3 biggest. Like, that. One of the biggest companies in the world, and you're on one of the biggest social medias in the world, and you're already a relatively famous person. And you're promoting like smoking weed, which I'm sure that maybe they don't do it. They probably drug test. Like
hell no, they don't drug test.
Normal people probably get drug tested that work there before they can get started. Like, just that probably is a part of like second biggest media company in the world. So we're talking second biggest media company in the world. You're, smoking blunts. You're talking shit. You got entertainment at the house, which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with having entertainment. But why are you broadcasting this to the world? I don't.
At 45, bro, you too old for that.
Yeah, I think that he made a mistake. And, obviously we already talked about him as a broadcaster and how historically bad he was. I mean, he even started having worse takes than Chuck. And Chuck's got I tell you what, no, predictions. Let me not say takes, because Charles Barkley actually has good takes sometimes, but like his predictions in terms of like, everybody used to just like, oh, well, Chuck's picking them. I was like, right against them, even though he just had one against the Hawks to the
his guarantees. His guarantees are terrible.
He's like Hawks. He's like, I bet $1 billion.
Well, real quick on Chuck is Chuck has a basketball philosophy that you can follow, and that's where his takes come from. So if you understand his philosophy, there's philosophy behind this. I can disagree with it, but this is coming from something.
Right. And I guess I mean more so to his picks for games.
I know. I just want to clear that up because I'm a Chuck fan.
I even go back to Paul Pierce when he was like, this series over. He's like, it's over. And it was Boston and Milwaukee with Kyrie, and I think they were up. They won the game 1, and then they proceeded to lose 4 in a row. And it was just like, but he was just like, he's like, series is over. Like, but he was so confident in it.
It was over. It was right.
Right. Now I feel like we're on freezing cold takes. He's like, for what it's worth, the series was over. He just didn't pick the right team. But he wasn't a very good analyst, and no reason Jalen Rose should come in and talk circles around you. Like, Jalen Rose to me isn't one of the best people either in it. But
Jalen Rose is a cultural icon.
Yeah, they did
first Jalen.
They did something as a statistic on because of the Fab Five, the name Jalen, and how like it became a much more popular name prior
I look here.
Post him being there, but like
I don't necessarily like this young boy direction that Jalen Rose has gone in recent years.
Well, and then he married Molly Querim.
Well,
can a lineup be too crispy? I think that's my question with Jalen Rose.
Yes, absolutely.
That shit looks fake.
Yeah, but you can tell like Jalen Rose is just, bro, he cool as hell. Y'all call him the Ohio State Buckeyes, but we call him the Fuck Eyes. And you know, he was on BMF. I'm sure he had a relationship with Big Meech back in the day. He had to. He was that guy in Detroit back then. Like, come on now. But like Jalen Rose is just a cool nigga, dog. Like,
well, my favorite Jalen Rose thing will always be the unreleased episode of, I guess, the Curb Your Enthusiasm that he was kind of gonna have, and just him addressing Kobe and, you know, them asking Kobe how many hours he won. He said 81, and just looking at him with this dead stare, like, oh boy.
But Sean, you had an experience with Paul Pierce. Did some work with him, right?
Yeah. Real quick, just some background. I'm pretty sure him and KG were all in that house together because they got divorced around the same time. So it's just like, all right, let's rent a house and be single for the first time with your boys. So that's
you're saying you think, but I had a friend who may have been tied to some media that Paul Pierce and Big Baby Davis and KG were trying to do at that time. And that friend told me that the three of those had pretty much bought them a really nice bachelor pad in LA, and they were kind of just running roughshod with their millions.
Yep. Yeah.
One of my friends told me that. One of my friends, sources I won't reveal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unrelated. I guess so. The experience is actually more with Steven Jackson. I got a chance to interview Captain Jack, Matt Barnes, and Paul Pierce. I had like 8 to 12 minutes with them. And so I'm going into it. And so usually what the deal is you get dropped into these Zooms, and it's just all of a sudden it's you and whoever you're interviewing. And usually it's just one person. It's a lot easier to like make small talk and kind of warm them up. When it's 3 people, it's a lot more difficult because you have to kind of like, I don't know, you used to like, oh, you first. It's kind of like a weird space you're in. And then also, it's like 2 PM. I know they've been doing these Zoom calls all day, like just talking to nobodies, and which I am as well. And they're probably just burnt out at this point. So sure enough, I got dropped into this Zoom, and they all have this look on their face, like just burned out. Been talking on Zooms to people for hours, and I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. And in the moment, I'm like, oh wait, what do I call Steven Jackson? Because I've never heard this man been called Steve or Steven in my entire life. He's either Captain Jack or Jack, but I don't want to be his best friend. I don't want to just come in there throwing nicknames around like I know this man. So I'm like, hey, Steven, I don't want to be your best friend or anything. And that came off weird as hell. That came off better in my head. But I was like, I don't want to be your best friend or anything. And in my head, I'm like, well, that was weird. And I was like, but like, what should I call you? Like Jack, like Captain Jack or whatever. And and credit to him, he played it off real casual and was like, oh, call me Stack. And I was just like, all right, cool. And in my head, I'm like, what a terrible way to start an interview. but so it actually went smoothly after that. But Paul Pierce was just chilling the whole, like, just, you know, like instead of sitting, it was just like, he was like this the whole time. And like every once in a while would like look up and say something. And his 2 best responses were, I asked him, if anybody on the call, meaning Matt Barnes or Steven Jackson, had like locked him up, and he was like, one time Matt bumped me, and I was like, oh shit, and that was the answer. And then I kind of forgot he was on the NBA All 75 team. Like that's actually like crazy to think, like he really was that good. So his answer about being in that ceremony was cool, but it was like, wow, like we know Paul Pierce for this stuff now, these ridiculous takes and like that video, but like this man really is one of the 75 best basketball players to exist. And so that was cool.
And one of the 25, probably one of the 25 best that we really watched with our eyes, knowing what we were seeing, you know. And the sad thing about Paul Pierce's retirement is he just don't act like a star. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, because part of what makes Chuck great is, I'm sure if Parlay Pete and I decided to hang out near the TNT studio on a Thursday night in Atlanta, we could probably catch Chuck at a local bar.
Plenty of people have. I know several people that have been out at 2:30. There's a bar over there. I forgot what it's called, but if you go there, he will get. Sometimes he comes in there and he'll buy everybody that's in there drinks because it's clearly not too many people in there.
Yep.
Even if it's like 15 people. I mean, he's rich as shit. So like, what is it for him realistically to spend if shots are $10 and it's 15 people, $150? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what is that even for him? But he can come in and do that, and
But part of what makes us like Chuck is he's guy next door. He's your old uncle, and
I think he was like a drunk fuck once. But the one time that I did meet him,
and I think what makes all the smoke dope is that Matt Barnes and Stack 5 or Steven Jackson, whatever you call them, right? They weren't superstars. What makes Knuckleheads great is they weren't superstars, right? People know them, you respect them, other players respected them. They did enough, or they had enough clout coming into the league that you respect who they were, but they weren't superstars. And
they played on. Now, I'm sorry to cut you off, Lee, but like they played on those two specifically played on like specific teams in NBA history, though. Matt Barnes obviously was running the 5 on that Warriors team, the Believe Warriors. So yeah, that plus he played with the Lakers. He played with Kobe. He was the replacement for Ron Artest.
Damn that he was this right here.
That too. Well, right. He's got that moment in the NBA Finals against him, but he replaced Ron Artest kind of.
Yeah,
that was he.
And they're both known for something other than basketball. Stack more for the Mouse of the Palace, and Matt Barnes more for driving an hour and a half to beat the hell out of Derek Fisher. So.
Yeah,
right.
And
then we know the Knuckleheads for being the young, fun Clippers, where if we were old enough to afford League Pass, we'd probably watch them on League Pass. No, they're going to lose, but they're out there having fun. And then you got Paul Pierce. He wants to fit in that mode, and it's like, hey, Paul, you're a Hall of Famer, All NBA 75, bro. Like, I know these are the guys you were probably coolest with on the team. But you're supposed to be like hanging out with Ray Allen and LeBron and Melo and D Wade. You're supposed to go do that weird ass. You're supposed to go weird in Hollywood. You ain't supposed to be the same Paul from Inglewood back in the 90s, dog. You're supposed to be a different person. And he's not. But I'm happy that he and KG have the show that they have, because KG didn't work well for network television, but not because he's not entertaining. He's just not network TV.
Did you? Yeah, there's like that clip of him. I forgot what word it was he was trying to sound out. It's like ridiculous. Yeah, it was just
yeah.
Like, what did you just say?
Like, but he go to college,
right?
Yeah, but I don't know.
The podcast Showtime space is where KG and Paul Pierce need to be, because they can be themselves. Because when I saw KG on All the Smoke, that's probably their best interview, when he's on there like, nah, mine, fuck that, hell no, I'll beat your ass, fuck you. Like when he gets to like actually be himself and not think about being censored, KG is amazing.
Better. He's definitely way better. Like, as opposed to being Area 21 on TNT.
Yeah, and like
I enjoyed that though, with the cuss button. I thought that was awesome though, and the word was equivalent. That was what
but he was like, I don't know what the fuck he said. I'm like, he's like, it was like some shit, and he was just like, what? Like,
all right, guys, real quick. My goal was not to keep you more than 2 hours, Sean. I apologize. Before I say, hey, Sean, you're on your own time now, and I appreciate you for being here. Finals predictions.
All right. I'm gonna go Bucks. Is it ridiculous to go Bucks Warriors?
Nah, I just would disagree with you.
Yeah.
All right. I just think the Bucks are by far the best and deepest team, and I think they're getting healthy at the right time. I think if Middleton gets a little better on defense, we get a little more spry than he's been, I think they'll be really good. And I think Steph is awesome. I don't think anyone could the benefit he got from winning that championship last year. I mean, I can't doubt that man ever again. He's a killer. So
So you got Bucks Warriors. Who's the winner and how many games?
I'd say Bucks over Warriors I'll say 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think once it turns, it'll be bad. Because is Draymond guarding Giannis? I don't know. I just don't see it happening.
No one.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have anyone that's really going to be guarding him.
I mean,
that would be theoretically that's who they're going to throw on him. Yeah, I would think.
What you got, Parlay Pete?
So I'm with him. I like the Bucks certainly coming out of the East, and then I like Phoenix out of the West. I think we get a rematch, and I think it goes 7. And I'm gonna go Phoenix this time. I think them getting KD was like we could argue it would be because you have to think about all-star break type trades that have like turned the tide for teams. The most recent one that I could think of that completely changed the complexion of a team was when the Lakers got Pau Gasol.
No.
She Wallace.
Cavs getting Shump and J.R. Smith.
Yeah, because of what ended up happening to them in the playoff run. Yeah. But I think that if that doesn't happen, they were going anyways. But yes. But the first one that came to my mind was Powell because like that's what made the Lakers legitimately win the West that year. And then of course the next 2 years. Yep. But this would be and no disrespect to Powell, Shump, or J.R. Smith, but Kevin Durant's Kevin Durant too. So like I like Phoenix to get it done at 7. I think that they avenge their loss to them 2 years ago and take them out in Milwaukee.
Hopefully we get a Dubs Suns Western Conference. I don't know when they would meet, but I would love that series too. Steph versus KD.
It would be West.
Yeah.
Either that or Suns Lakers.
That won't happen. See here's what I'm saying here. You know, this is the year of Philly disappointment to the GOAT. You know, we thought, Patrick Mahomes did what he did, and we didn't think that team was going to be what they were supposed to be, but it was what it was, Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes, but the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And, we're going to see Joel get to his first Eastern Conference Finals and win it. And then he's going to run into the grand old man of the NBA. He's going to go see, LeBron James.
Wow.
Lakers in 6.
I'll take it.
Lakers, Sixers, Lakers in 6.
Yeah.
You think LeBron and AD will stay healthy that long? That's the one thing.
I'm betting on it.
Look, you're saying they're going to beat Memphis. Then I like them to beat Memphis. They're going to beat Memphis. They're going to beat Golden State.
Golden State has to hold on. Golden State has to beat has to go to Sacramento and win a game.
They'll get
They've been
one.
terrible on the road.
They have, but so is Memphis too. These are like Memphis is just as bad. Well,
I'm not worried about Memphis. Lakers in 5.
Memphis is like 36-5 at home this year. Like they're very good. They're like probably that's got to be a top 10 home.
Have you seen the LeBron playoff whistle before?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, if you know about the whistle, then you know what's going on here.
They need the health on their side because 2 years ago when they lost to the Suns in that series,
it was
2-1.
I don't remember, but it was health. It was just health.
Yeah, well, yeah,
it was 2-1, and then AD got hurt, right?
Yeah, AD got hurt. It was over.
Like,
so
he tried to come back for like game 6 and then re-injured himself or something. It was like
I am banking on Lakers' health, which I know is a very bad bet, but I've been on this Lakers thing all year. I can't hop off now. Not when I've seen them play well. Hey, but look here, we're gonna wrap up hour 2 here. Thanks so much, Sean. You can hang out. I'm not telling you got to go anywhere, but this is all that I've asked for you. I was telling my wife before I go, we gotta get started on time because Sean has a wife and all that stuff, so can't just be up all late hours of the night just podcasting because I'm not getting in trouble with Colleen. Make sure you tell Colleen I said hello. Miss you guys. Miss you guys. Just thanks for coming by. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Sean. He had been talking about you a lot prior to us getting here, and like I said, I couldn't wait, especially because you're a Philly fan. And even though you guys got us in that divisional game and hell, the divisional game with McNabb, Vic, and the NFC Championship with McNabb, Vic, Kevin Herter fucking got it back for us, baby. by breaking Ben Simmons. Okay. But that might have been better for you guys because now you got James Harden out of it. So
yeah, I was at Game 7, and he cooked Seth Curry into oblivion. That was pretty rough.
Boy, and that's why I couldn't believe that we traded him.
Yeah, I mean,
well, we got rid of Travis Slink.
I would have kept Herter, and obviously, I'm not saying he's a big part too of why the Kings are so good. Adding him to that, he's been really good for them. But either way,
yeah, no, but it's been real. It's been good to meet you. It's been good to meet you, Pete. And I don't know when the next time I'll see you in person, Adam. But I don't know. Maybe we'll go down to Puerto Rico. Link up with Ouija for you.
Hey,
off the mat. I'll give you some coordinates.
Hey, we'll pull up. We'll have a great time. Thanks, man.
All right, Joe. I'll see you around.